The lecture hall was silent, not the restless kind of silence students fall into when they're bored, but the controlled kind, the kind that existed because no one wanted to interrupt her. Lee Haram stood at the front, posture straight, voice even. If you rely on assumption, your entire argument collapses. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. At 35, she had perfected the art of command without effort. Her tone was measured, almost cold, her words precise enough that no one misunderstood them. Chalk tapped once against the board. Evidence, she continued, writing a single word, is the only thing that holds an argument together. Without it, you're just guessing. A few students nodded, scribbling quickly. In the back row, Jang Hanyul didn't. She was watching, not admiring, just observing. There was something about Professor Lee Haram that felt deliberately distant, like every part of her was controlled down to the smallest detail. Even the way she turned, the way she paused between sentences, it all felt intentional. Hanyul frowned slightly. She didn't like people she couldn't read. Miss Gung. Hanyul blinked, snapping out of her thoughts. Haram was looking directly at her. Since you seem unconvinced, she said calmly, would you like to explain your perspective? A few heads turned. Hanyul didn't hesitate. You're oversimplifying, she said, voice steady. Context matters just as much as evidence. A ripple of tension moved through the room. Most students avoided disagreeing with Haram. Haram didn't react immediately. Then support that, she said. Hanyul did. Back and forth, clean and sharp, no raised voices. No emotion, just logic meeting logic. When it ended, Haram gave a slight nod. Stay after class, not a suggestion. Hanyul exhaled quietly. Of course. The room emptied quickly. Hanyul stayed where she was for a moment, then walked down to the front. Haram didn't look up right away, organizing her notes with careful precision. Haram glanced at her. You rely too much on instinct, Haram said. And you rely too much on structure, Hanyul replied. A pause. You're not wrong, she admitted. Hanyul raised an eyebrow, slightly surprised. But that doesn't make you right, Haram added. Hanyul almost smiled. Fair. Silence settled between them, but it wasn't awkward. Just unfinished. Revise your argument, Haram said, handing her papers back. With both, Hanyul took them. She turned to leave, then stopped at the door. For what it's worth, she said without looking back. You're not as neutral as you think. Haram's gaze lifted slightly, but Hanyul had already left. Haram watched the empty doorway for a second, longer than necessary. Then she returned to her work. That evening her father called. I hope your schedule is clear next week. It isn't, Haram replied. Why? A meeting. Important. She didn't ask what kind. Understood. A pause. It concerns your marriage. That made her still. I see. It's time. Haram's grip on her pen tightened just slightly. She had always known this would happen. Who is she? Haram asked. You'll meet her at the wedding. Of course. Haram closed her eyes briefly, then opened them again. All right. No hesitation. No resistance. Just acceptance. Across the city, Hanyul wasn't nearly as composed. You're getting married. She stared at her mother. No, I'm not. It's already arranged. That's not how this works. It is for us. Hanyul let out a short laugh, pacing once across the room. To who? You'll meet her then. That's insane. It's necessary. Hanyul stopped moving. Her jaw tightened. Do I have a choice? Silence. That was her answer. Hanyul looked away, exhaling slowly. Fine, she muttered. Whatever. But her voice lacked conviction. The week passed like nothing had changed. Haram continued teaching. Hanyul continued attending. They argued once more in class, brief, sharp, unresolved. Neither of them knew it would be their last normal interaction. The wedding was real, not a contract, not a performance. Everything about it was legitimate vows, witnesses, signatures, two families binding themselves together through them. Haram stood at the altar, composed in white. She hadn't seen her bride. That was intentional. Hannibal stood at the end of the aisle, heart beating faster than she wanted to admit. "This is ridiculous," she whispered. "Walk," someone said softly. So she did. Step by step toward a future she hadn't chosen but had agreed to anyway. Harem didn't look closely when Hannibal reached her. She didn't need to. This wasn't about recognition. It was about commitment. They exchanged vows without emotion, said "I do" without hesitation, signed their names like it was just another decision. Because to both of them,
it was.
The reception blurred past. Faces, voices, congratulations. None of it mattered. Because neither of them knew the truth yet. The door closed behind them.
Silence.
The bridal suite. Hannibal kicked off her heels immediately, exhaling. Finally. Harem removed her jacket, setting it aside neatly. They turned at the same time and froze. Recognition didn't take long.
Professor.
Canuel's voice cracked slightly. Harem's expression didn't break, but something underneath it did.
Hannibal.
Silence crashed into the room. Hannibal let out a breath that almost turned into a laugh. No. Harem said nothing. Because there was nothing to say. "You're my professor," Hannibal said, staring at her. "And you," Harem replied, steady, despite everything, "are my wife." The words felt unreal.
Wrong.
Impossible. Hannibal shook her head, stepping back. "Did you know?" "No." "Me neither." Another silence. Heavier. This time, neither of them could ignore it. Hannibal ran a hand through her hair. "This is insane."
Yes.
"You're way too calm about this." Harem's gaze stayed on her. "This is already done? That's your explanation?" "It's the truth." Hannibal let out a dry laugh. "Great. Love that for us." Harem didn't respond. But for the first time, she didn't look entirely in control. Hannibal crossed her arms. "So what now?" Harem took a moment before answering. "At the university," she said slowly, "nothing changes." Hannibal blinked. "Nothing?"
Yes.
"And this?" Hannibal gestured between them. A pause. Harem's voice lowered slightly. "This is separate." Hannibal stared at her. "Separate," she repeated.
Yes.
Another silence. Then Hannibal shook her head, almost smiling in disbelief. "You're unbelievable." Harem didn't argue, because she wasn't wrong. They stood there, newly married, suddenly aware, and completely unprepared. Not strangers, not just professor and student, something far more complicated. And neither of them had any idea what to do with it. If you want to know what happens next, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button.